Hi guys, welcome to the Famsville Pod. My name is Esther Randle, and I'll be your host for this episode. The Famsville Pod is a platform where we discuss salient legal issues as it relates to the society. In this episode, we will be discussing immigration law in Nigeria. And with me is
Pamilerin Akabunwa.
Okay.
I am a senior associate at Famsville Solicitors. I head the corporate immigration team.
welcome, Pamilerin.
Thank you very much.
Yesterday, I was on my way to work, and the police was harassing a foreigner, asking for his passport. I was a bit confused. Why should the police be harassing a foreigner? On today's episode, we would actually be discussing the issue of corporate immigration. First of all, just tell us, what's immigration law in Nigeria and what's the legal framework generally available?
So just like every aspect of law, we have the primary source of law and we have the secondary.
Yeah.
So the primary source of law for immigration is the Immigration Act of 2015.
Okay.
We have the Immigration Regulation of 2017. We have the new visa policy that was issued in 2020. Then we have the expatriate quota handbook, or policy as they call it. The latest version was released, I think, 2 months ago, 2022. Then we have the Nigerian Oil and Gas Industry Quota Development Act.
Okay.
So those are basically the primary sources of law for immigration. Secondary sources, we have CAMA, of course, Company and Allied Matters Act.
Yeah.
We have every law on tax related, because most expatriates come in on employment, so laws on tax will definitely affect them. Basically, those are the secondary sources of law. And of course, how can I forget, the Nigerian Constitution, the grand norm.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Pamela.
Thank you.
So, the scenario I just painted, or what circumstances can a foreigner be allowed to come and work in Nigeria?
So, I would say the first step for allowing the foreigner to come work in Nigeria starts with the company employing the expatriate. So, of course, the company has to be incorporated in Nigeria.
Okay.
And then the company needs to apply for what we call the expatriate quota. That's like a permit or a license given to a company to allow them employ expatriates.
So, are there any, how will I put it now? Are there any criteria that company must have before you can be allowed to employ an expatriate?
Okay, so not really, but at the point of incorporation, the company must have at least 10 million share capital. Very important. That's what guarantees you. Of course, that also would vary based on the kind of sector the company is going into. You know how CAC has different amounts of share capital, minimum share capital for each sector. So if your company falls under a particular sector, then you must ensure that your share capital is up to the amount stated. But if it's not, the minimum you have to have before you can apply for a quota is 10 million share capital.
Okay, so how does upon application, like you said, that the company must have applied to obtain an expatriate quota for that expatriate in question, but are there certain number of positions that a company can apply for, or it's unlimited?
I would say it's unlimited.
Okay.
You can apply for as many as you need, but the issuance of the number of positions applied for is based on discretion of the Ministry of Interior.
So, but don't you think that would affect the labor market? Because if every position is open to a foreigner, expats here, Nigerian expats, won't be opportune when it comes to applying or even getting the job.
Okay, so generally, not all positions are open to expatriates.
Okay.
I would think more for the educational sector. It's really, really limited in allowing expats to come and teach in Nigeria. I know there are 1 or 2 sectors like that, but generally, the major purpose of the quota is not just to bring in foreigners to come and work, but it's for Nigeria as a country to import skill and knowledge that we, based on our own systems, might not have or be able to teach in our schools. So we are bringing these guys not just to come and work and earn money in Nigeria, but so that they can bring in their skill and their knowledge. And the second part of it is the impacting of those skills and knowledge on Nigerians. So one of the requirements once you obtain your quota positions is that for each position you employ an expatriate for, you must have at least 2 Nigerian understudies.
Oh, so for each position, there's 1 expatriate?
Yes, so 1 expatriate per position and 2 understudies who must have a minimum of university degree.
Oh,
so not like ND or the likes, at least BSc or LLB or whatever it is. You must have a degree, and not just any degree. The understudy must be in the field of the expatriate. So if imagine I'm coming in to come and work as an engineer, then you go and bring someone with a law degree to come and work, it might not be able to flow. Because the purpose of it is that whoever is the understudy should, after a couple of years, be able to step into that position and occupy that position.
Okay, so this actually sounds interesting. So at what point can the foreigner or the expatriate, as you have said, as a legal professional, so at what point will the expatriate be opportune to obtain a permanent residency? So for example, if Steve, we are using a case study here, so if Steve now loves Nigeria and says, okay, I feel like I want to be a citizen, at what point, because bear in mind he came in through a work permit, as you said, so but can he now obtain a permanent residency on that basis?
Yes, of course he can. According to the Nigerian Constitution, the chapter on citizenship, you know, there are 3 ways at which you can become a citizen: by birth, by registration, or by naturalization. So most expatriates that are in Nigeria just to work and reside are allowed to register or apply for citizenship through naturalization. One of the major requirements for that is that the expatriates must have lived in Nigeria continuously for 15 years before you can even think of applying for citizenship through naturalization. So that's it. And cases whereby the foreigner works in Nigeria and then probably ends up marrying a Nigerian, after a minimum of 5 years of the marriage existence, they can apply for what we call special immigrant status, which will allow the Nigerian, the expatriate to just continue to live and reside in Nigeria. It's similar to citizenship, but it's called SIS, special immigrant status.
Okay, so what you're trying to say is, even because you stated earlier that the expatriate quota or the permit given by the immigration service will be for a specific period of time.
Yes.
So by implication, what you are trying to tell us now is that even upon the expiration of that permit, and he has obtained a permanent residency card, as the case may be, he can still be in Nigeria.
Well, definitely, once you get your SIS or you get your citizenship, as the case may be, of course you can continue to live and work in Nigeria as long as you want.
Thank you very much. I've been able to learn, at least I've taken something.
I'm glad.
Yes. So another thing that I'm curious about is the issue of visa interviews. So I don't know if you have plans to jackpot. Every young person wants to jackpot. Yes. So what is your view and opinion on that? Because I've seen people where when they are going for visa interviews, it's like they are going to meet the devil himself. So what's your take as an immigration expert? What do you think is the reason why people are fearful when it comes to visa interviews?
I think just for everything, just generally how things, for anything challenging, for anything that you would need the approval of another person, it's just normal for you to be tensed. Because of course, it's not just about what you're going to present at that point. The person's mood also matters. And things like that. So those things can actually make people tense. But generally, once you are conversant with what you need to apply, in the sense that you decide the country you want to go to, you decide the kind of visa you want, and then you are, to the best of your ability, able to put together the documents you need. Because different countries, different visa categories have different needs, have different requirements. And once you don't meet them automatically, I'm pretty sure you probably wouldn't get your visa. So once you can ensure that you've done everything according to book, and most times for visa application, you don't just wake up this morning and say, I want to apply next week. It takes time. You need to research. And cases where you don't have enough time for that, that's why we have immigration experts that can actually help you and advise, oh, this is the country you want to go to, what do you want to go and do? Okay, it's best to apply for tourist visa or for visiting visa. And then these are documents you will need, these amounts in your account, you need to show this and emphasize this and all that. Like, so basically, once you can have your document intact and based on the requirements of the country, you probably wouldn't have much, you don't have much issues at the interview section. And not even all countries does interviews. Some you just submit your documents, they review it, and they get back to you. Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think are the common reasons why visas are rejected?
Visa rejection is based on the type of visa you're applying for.
Okay.
So let's say, for example, I want to apply for a student visa to do my master's, let's say, for example, in Canada. And I studied law in Nigeria here, and maybe I'm practicing. Then I apply for visa admin, or I apply for culinary. It's not just about having admission. One of the things they will ask you is, what's the correlation between what you studied and what you're doing and what you're going for? And because generally every country is skeptical about Nigerians, let me just put that one out.
So what do you think will be the reason? We are nice people.
I want to agree with you on that.
We're actually nice
yes,
people.
we are very nice. I wouldn't say otherwise on record. We are very, very nice, and we know ourselves. We'll just leave it like that. So already they are skeptical about us, and everything we say, they need to double weigh. So why? So they will ask you actually, if you actually have to go for the interview, why are you taking this course? What advantage will the course do to you? And because you're applying for a student visa means that you want to just study and you want to go back home. So this course you're applying for, in what way can you use it when you go back to your country in Nigeria? If you can't explain that, then they will doubt the reason for your visa application.
So that what you're trying to tell us now is, once I want to apply for a course, I should be able to convince a third party why I want to study that course.
Yes, I know, because most times they might not be wrong. You might just have interest in it, but you know how, because again we are Nigerians, you have to overly convince them that this course you study, maybe you have the passion for it, or maybe you've done 1 or 2 courses online, you want to continue studying it, or maybe there's a new area in Nigeria that you think the course is beneficial for you for. But that's just an example. There are many other reasons. Another reason is that your account statement. You need to be able to show people funds that you can support yourself, because they don't expect you to be working, to be studying and be working. And if you don't have enough money to sponsor yourself for the 1-year masters or 2-year masters, depending, it automatically means you might want to work, which they wouldn't want, because of course the way we usually do our things in Nigeria, because you go for study, then you try to get a job, and then from the job try and stay, which they want to limit as much as possible. So those things can actually cause rejection.
So I'm actually interested in the aspect of proof of funds, because I believe this is where a lot of us have issues, because it's even difficult to sustain ourselves here. So to get a certain large amount of money, putting it in an account to show you can take care of yourself when you travel. So are there institutions that actually make these funds available? For example, maybe for a certain period of time, maybe for 30 days, 60 days, just for you to be able to have something to show to the embassy? Yes,
of course, there are institutions, companies that actually assist with that. And of course, you can't just go to any random company. You have to verify and be sure whatever company you're going to. But there are companies that can help with proof of funds. So you can have them. But just more than that, it's not just about having the money in your account. Most times they are very particular about how have you been sustaining yourself. So it's not like I want to travel next month and I go and borrow 5 million and put it in my account and say, let's stay there for 1 month and then, yes, I'm good. How have you been sustaining yourself? Do you have any form of income? Do you have people that you are dependent on? Do you have sponsors? All those things actually also come into play. Which is that I was actually going to mention that. So one of the reasons why they don't give visas is when you don't show enough ties to your country. Like I said, mostly for study and visiting visa, you are meant to just go for a period of time and go back to your home country. So if you cannot if you cannot convince them that I have enough things to want me to come back to Nigeria, you most likely get a rejection.
That's very interesting.
So you see mostly for Canada and US, you already see applicants did not show enough ties to home country, and they put in brackets how you can show ties. They can put family, they put landed property, they put business, they put employment, whatever it is to show that my heart is still at home, which we know our hearts are not.
But well, it's I don't want to say our hearts are not at all, because this is where most of us were brought up. So one way or the other, we can't forget Nigeria.
Sorry, if you get visa now to go and study, will you come back to Nigeria?
Well, I don't want to say this. I don't
exactly.
want to. Okay.
So that's just it.
Okay, so now for the benefit of those that have actually had visa rejection, so what's the next step? Because I know most people are sad. I've even had a very close friend that recently he couldn't eat because of he was rejected. So what's the next thing for him?
Okay, so it depends on the country rejecting you and the visa you applied for. For some countries, they will let you know outrightly that you have a right of appeal. That means you can appeal the rejection. Let's say they rejected your application because of maybe in your proof of funds you had way too much money before time, or if you say you're employed somewhere and then they see your salary entry in your account twice in a month, or maybe just simple inconsistencies sometimes, either in your financial statement or in whatever you're applying, then sometimes they can tell you have a right to appeal. That means you can actually explain yourself and say, no, this wasn't what happened. I wasn't trying to be fraudulent, or I wasn't trying to misrepresent any information. Maybe my salary got delayed in the month of May, and then my company paid both May and June together this month. Things that you can easily explain like that. If they say you haven't shown enough ties, oh yes, I have a business, this is my CAC document, I'm a director in this company, I'm a director in that company, and maybe I'm employed, this is my letter of employment, this is my approval for my leave. Things like that, where you have the right of appeal, you can just go back to say, this is just a misunderstanding and this is the right thing to do. Or some they will tell you, you have no right of appeal. So that means you cannot even think about writing any letter or anything. You just hold back. Usually I am supposed to stay a bit before reapplying, so it wouldn't show too much desperation. So wait a bit and then ensure that whatever reason you were rejected the first time, you work on it and you correct it. And then most times when they see a good representation, let's say sometimes we do for clients that have been rejected, as an immigration consultant in the law firm, we ask you, so what happened? Do you explain yourself? Then we can write a letter on your behalf to add to your new application, saying that this is a respectable Nigerian, he works here, these are his documents, you guys shouldn't have rejected his visa. And then usually when you add that kind of letter to your new application, you will get it. So,
Pamilerin, what are the visas or permits available for expatriates in Nigeria?
Thank you. So generally, let me start with in practice. We have 3 major visa categories. Although I must also mention that under the new visa policy of 2020, we have 79 classes. But not all classes are effective yet. When it comes to bringing in expatriates to either render any form of service to your company or for employment, there are 3 major categories. First is the STR, that's subject to regularization visa. That's the visa that allows expatriates to come into Nigeria to reside and to work. The visa itself is valid for 90 days, and there are lots of documents. I really can't go into all the details for it. But the important thing is that once the visa is issued to you, within 90 days, a foreigner has to travel into the country. And the foreigner must regularize the visa. That's what they call it, STR, Service Regularization Visa. Must regularize the visa and then obtain the SEPAC, or the green card, or the residency permit, as we call it. So when you have that, it's valid for a year. You can leave and work, and then you can keep renewing as long as you need to be, as long as you're in the country. So that's like the first major type. And before companies can bring any expatriate in on STR, of course, the company must have the expatriate quota, as we already discussed. Second category or class is the temporary work permit. So this is not necessarily an employment. It's like a contract saying, come and do something for us for a couple of months and then you go back. So maybe you want to do some things, maybe like installations or audits. some basic work that requires skills but shouldn't take a long time. You can come on temporary work permit. Documents to acquire bulky, and then the processes are there are a lot. We can advise on that if you need us to. Then they can come for 2 months, it's valid for 60 days, and you can extend in country. Then the most popular for seminars or trainings or conferences, expatriate coming to do those in Nigeria, is visa on arrival. It's a business permit, business visa, but it's VOA. It's all the application is done online. You pay online. You get your approval slip online, and then your visa is issued to you when you come into the country. And if you're a frequent traveler into Nigeria for business, you can always apply for multiple entry visas for work. But apart from that, we have visitors visa, we have tourist visa, we have STR visa for minors, for dependents. We still have those other categories, but the ones that are particular to expatriates to come and work or do any form of service in Nigeria are the first 3 that I mentioned.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about visa rejection, and it came to my mind that how do you know your visa has been rejected? Because I know there are some on the spot, right? They will just stamp denied. So, and there are some that they send via mail. So, what is the most common form of knowing that your visa has been rejected? And I won't mind if you can give us instances of some countries and the way they communicate the visa rejection to applicants.
Okay, so for most countries, they'll issue you a denial letter.
Okay.
Stating that we reviewed the application, and based on this, we are not convinced that you will return to your country, or you have not complied to our immigration requirements, and your visa is denied. So you will actually know. For some countries, it's quite generic, but others will let you know. I'll say countries like Canada, for example, will tell you you didn't show enough family ties, your funds we've misrepresented. They will let you know the reason why. And then, so from the letter, of course, you will get to know. So usually you will get a denial letter saying we are rejecting your visa and this is the reason why. And right there in the letter, they will let you know you can appeal or you can't appeal, or if you can't or some will just tell you. So for example, like US sometimes would let you know they intend to deny you
before they deny you.
Yes. So that's mostly when they're just minor inconsistencies. Okay, so because of this, we don't think you are qualified. But if you have any explanation, so they will
they call it
notice of intention to deny. Something like that. And then you read it, you know the reasons why. So maybe it was a document that is looking fraudulent or some whatever it is. Then they'll give you maybe 15 days usually, or less than 30 days to explain yourself. And then if you can't, you get denial. I know someone of recent thing that was for, I think, is it Canada? I really can't remember the country. I think it was Canada. And they said the person misrepresented something in the information, and the person should explain himself. And if the person can't explain, the person will be denied. And if the person explains and doesn't give a logical explanation, the person will be banned for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so that happens sometimes too. So it's important to not try to think you can actually handle this yourself. So it's better if you have an immigration consultant to help you look at it. So to advise you on the next thing to do, if they think you have a good point to appeal on or to write or to explain, then they advise you to, or probably help you draft your letter. But if it's very risky, and then if most times, like I said, we are Nigerians, we tend to be fraudulent. And because we don't expect them to see, but those people are more thorough than we expect. So they see these things and then they tell you, we suspect that this is a lie or this is a fraud. Explain yourself, and if you can't, you may get a ban. So usually the circumstances always varies. And it's important to not just rush into it or think and handle it yourself. Get an immigration expert, immigration consultant to help you review it and advise you on the next step. And there are some that if you want to take it up, you have to get a lawyer from that country. It all varies. It all varies.
The circumstances. Okay, so but I also want to ask that if at any point your visa is rejected, and then, like you said, you should give it a while before you reapply. Now, upon reapplication, do they make reference at any point to the documents you have submitted earlier?
They keep records. Trust me, they do keep record. So you don't, it's just best not to in any way think you can fool these guys. They've worked with Nigerians a lot. They work with different countries. There have been instances, I think I had one to deal with a few years ago. The guy was applying for students for study visa to Canada still. And then he mentioned that he had worked in ABC company there. And then I think he didn't get the visa. So after like 10 years, he's trying to apply for PR. And then of course you submit documents. So in comparing both documents, they notified him that they might deny him because the employment that he referred to in the previous application was not genuine.
Was not
He
consistent
missed
with
it
the
out,
law.
or he didn't, maybe he lied about it, or he missed it out in this current application. Excuse me. And because of that, they don't think he was saying the truth then. Or he's saying the truth now. And then he probably wouldn't get his PR. So, sorry.
You can have some
Thank
water.
you. So it all depends.
Wow.
But they keep record and they don't throw it their record. So don't think your application last year, although each application is treated based on its merit, but it doesn't mean there shouldn't be a level of consistency.
Wow.
Basically.
That's good. Thank you so much, Pamilerin, for your time.
Thank you for
I
having me.
really learned a lot. Like I said, I had to take a biro and a paper to jot. It was, you know, you had a lot to share with us. And I hope you would come again anytime we request your presence.
Definitely.
Yes. So this was an interesting session, and we hope you learned one or two things. If you have any questions, you can always put them down at the comment section, or you can send it to the email showing on your screen. We want you to also know that we'll be discussing other interesting issues like labor law. We'll also be discussing ESG and how to set up your business in line with the regulatory laws available in Nigeria. Stay tuned, don't leave. Thank you very much. Your one and only host, Esther Randle. Yeah.